Hello everyone, my name is Nash and we are here to show you how to play DBMM. So what is DBMM? Well, it's a set of war games rules for fighting battles from the period of 3000 BC to 1525 AD. It's a wonderful set of rules and it plays a great game, but it can be a little bit difficult for people to get started with. So this video is here to help people, to help new players get started with the game. So, other than the rules, what do you need to play DBMM? You need a table. For 15mm scale, we generally use 6 foot by 4 foot. You need some terrain pieces. You need some dice, just regular 6-sided dice, measuring sticks or a tape measure, and of course you need some figures based appropriately for the game. But for now we're going to play on a much smaller table using the DBMM 100 rules. This will allow us to finish a game in about an hour and is a great way to learn how to play. We've chosen our armies and we've taken them from book 2 of the DBMM army lists. In this volume you can see the composition of the armies and the choices that you can make, and it tells you the terrain options that you have if you're defending, and gives you the aggression factor for the army, which will help determine whether you are defending or invading. So to determine the invader, both players roll a d6 and add their aggression factor. The highest is the invader. I've chosen Republican Roman and my aggression is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5.
And I've chosen some knights. My aggression is 1. Plus 1 is 2, which means that Nash is the invader. So, as the defender, I get to place the terrain. And then I'll deploy my army first. I deploy anywhere up to 6 centimetres short of the table centre line.
And as the invader, I can deploy up to 10 centimetres short of the centre line.
So I've deployed my army with my Samnite warriors on the right, supported by my cavalry and the general, and my Latin allies on the left, with some light troops here next to the wood.
Okay, so the Romans have deployed with a similar setup. I have my heavy infantry legions in the middle, ready to face the Latin heavy infantry. Mine are a little bit better, I hope. On my right I have my skirmishers ready to protect their flank. My Triarii are facing the Samnites and they are supported by cavalry and the general.
So before we begin, let's cover some basics. In DBMM there are no units as such, instead there are groups and elements. One base is called an element, and each element has a type, a grade, and can be either regular or irregular depending on its training. These fine Samnite warriors have a type of auxilia. Heavy infantry with swords or axes are called blades, and heavy infantry with spears are called spears. Light foot skirmishers are siloi, and mounted troops can be of several types: light horse, knights, or cavalry, which we're using today. Now, the type of an element determines its movement rate, its combat factor, and its combat outcome. It's also important to bear in mind that an element represents about 250 men. It's not just 4 guys with their feet nailed to a plank. So as the defender I get to go first, and the first thing I do is to roll a die to determine how many player initiative points or pips I get, because that determines what I can do in my turn. And 4's not too bad. So I can use 1 pip to move 1 element. So my Siloi move 8 centimetres, and I'm going to move them over here to outflank Nash. Now I can also use a pip to move a whole group. So any elements like these that are all in edge to edge and corner to corner contact are called a group, and I can move all of them for 1 pip. So I can just advance my whole line for 1 pip. These, and that means I've used 1, 2, 3 pips. I have 1 left, so I can also move my cavalry, and my cavalry move a little further. My lovely assistant will give me a stick so they can come to here and get the advantage of the hill.
Okay, so now it's the Romans to go. So I roll my dice for my pips and I get a fabulous 5. Okay, this gives me a lot of options. First of all, I'm going to be aggressive. For 1 pip, my cavalry can move across and charge the enemy cavalry on the hill. So I just move that one over to there, and that cost me 1 pip. Okay, for 1 pip, I can also move forward. So I'm going to move my line. These guys are in a group, and so I can move these forward as a group for 1 pip. And they are heavy infantry, so they move just this far. Okay, this cost me another pip. My general is going to move to protect this flank. That's cost me another pip. Alright, my Siloi move this far, but because Bob's troops were moving through the wood, they were slowed down a little bit. So actually my Siloi can charge, and I think I'm going to do that. So we're going to go charging in on these fights and fight over here. Okay, and that's cost me 1 more pip, and I've got a pip spare, but I can't spend it. That's it, I'm done.
Okay, so now we do combats where the troops are fighting each other.
Shall we start with the cavalry?
Okay, now cavalry each has a combat factor of 3, and we resolve combats by adding our combat factor to a die roll.
Okay.
Shall we roll together?
3 and 3. I've rolled a 3, and Bob's rolled a 3. So that's a draw.
That's a draw.
So we stand there. There's no advantage for Bob being on the hill at this point because it's my turn. We'll explain that next turn. Okay, so we've got fights over here, Siloi on Siloi. So we'll start on this end. Siloi are both at a factor 2 to start off with, but we're both overlapped. We both have enemy elements clear on the side of our troops.
Clear those are in contact.
Okay, so because we're both overlapped, we both get a -1. So we go from 2-2 to 1-1. And that's a great result because I've rolled a 5 and those Latins could only manage a 1.
So that gives you a total of 6 and me a total of 2. And because he's doubled me, that means I'm destroyed.
Okay, and the next fight is the same. Sorry, here I have an option. If I want to, I can follow up and I can move into this space, but I don't think that's a good idea so I don't have to follow up, so I will stay where I am. The next fight is the same factors. We're 2-2, we've both overlapped, so we go down to 1-1 again. Big numbers.
See if I can do it better.
Oh dear.
Yes.
So this time I've rolled a 1, Bob has rolled a 4, Bob goes up to 5.
Which is 2 times 2.
And I go on to one, from 1 to 2. I'm doubled, therefore I am dead. Kills an element.
Yeah, take that, Roman scum.
So, a bloody first round of combat for both sides.
Okay, now it's my turn again. So I roll my pips. Whoa, 6. So first thing, I'm going to move my group into his group. Now, it's important in DBMM that that all the elements line up, so you know that which ones are fighting which ones. So generally the person that's moving has to line up with the person who's not moving. So I have to slide all of my elements a little way so that they line up with Nash's.
So to line up means that they are touching on their front edge and their front corners are lined up with each other as well.
That will move in the rest of the group. So all of that cost me 1 pip. Now my cavalry here is in combat, so I can't move that. So I have 3 elements of Siloi here. So 1 is going to move into here, 1 is going to go here, and now this one, so that cost me 2 pips, so 1 pip for that, so I have 2 pips left, so I can move this one onto Nash's flank. Now this is a very good move for me, because if an element is beaten in combat and it has an element on its flank like this, which we call hard flanked, it's destroyed. So all I have to do here is beat Nash on the dice and his element will be destroyed. Okay, shall we roll for combats?
I think we shall. Okay.
And let's start here.
Okay, so you start at factor 2 and I start at factor 2. But because I've got 1 element on my flank, I go down 1. So I'm on a factor of 1. So it's 2 to 1. Oh dear, I put up a good fight. I rolled a 4, but unfortunately the Latins rolled a 6. So he hasn't doubled me, because it's 8-5, but he's beaten me. And I cannot recoil because of this one, therefore I'm dead.
And now here, after I destroy something in combat, I have the choice to move forward either my base depth or a whole base width. So I'm going to move a base width because that gets me behind his line. Okay, so 1 more Siloi, 2 factors each.
2-2.
3 to 6.
So you go to 5 and we go to 8.
Not quite double me.
You're not inferior.
So I just go back.
And we will not follow up there.
Okay.
We will stay where we are.
Moved a bit here.
Yes, we should, I think, be lined up. No, because you've lined up with me.
Oh yes.
So there's a gap.
So there's a gap there. So he's not outflanking me. That's excellent.
Yes.
Right, now along the line here, you see that I have slightly more elements, and that's because Nash has better troops. We said at the beginning that each element has not only a type, it also has a grade. So Nash's elements here, his blades, are grade O, which means ordinary, and mine are grade I, which means inferior, so you can probably guess which is better. So let's start here. So both sides are blades, so we both have combat factors 4.
So 4-4. And we both rolled 4s.
So that's a draw.
It's 8-8, it's a draw, nothing happens.
So here, again 4-4.
4-4. We rolled a 3, Bob rolled a 2. So it goes to 7 to 6, which means that Bob loses. Because he's inferior, when he loses, he also takes a -1. So he goes down from 6 to 5, so it's 7-5, which unfortunately is not enough to kill him. and we're going to be a little bit cowardly, and we're going to maintain our line. Not cowardly, I should say, well ordered.
Roman discipline.
Roman discipline.
Okay, now this one, so Nash still has factor 4, I have factor 4, but now I'm overlapped because my friends are being pushed back, so I lose a factor, so it's now 3 to 4.
Ooh, okay, I rolled a 6, and Bob rolled a 5, unfortunately. So again, it's not going to be enough to double him. I go to 10, Bob goes to 8, he's inferior, down to 7, 10, 7, not doubled, not dead.
Okay, now here we've got some different types of troops. Now these Samnites are auxilia, and these ones are graded superior. But unfortunately they're facing Nash's Triarii, which, as you remember, are graded as spears, and they're also superior. So you're 4, and I'm 3.
But you're overlapped.
I'm 2.
4 to 2, we both roll 2s. So, 4 to 2, I go to 6.
6 to 4.
Bob goes to 4.
I'm pushed back.
And he is pushed back.
Now when you're pushed back, recoil as it's called, you go back your base depth. So these should actually be fallen back a little bit further than the blades.
So the auxiliary have 20mm depth for their bases, and the blades and spears have 15mm depth. So when things get pushed back, they go back slightly different different distances. Okay, so sometimes your lines then will get confused. Okay.
Okay, next combat. I'm 3, overlaps down to 2 again. And Nash is still 4.
I got a 3, you got a 6. So I go to 7, and you go to 8.
8.
And you're superior.
So that means that if I win, and it's my turn, I get to add an extra 2, which makes me to 10.
10.
But still not double Nash.
And I'm superior as well. So when I'm defending and I lose, so in the enemy's turn, so it's Bob's turn, if I lose, I get a +1. So I go from 7 +1 to 8. So it's actually 10, 8, which is not enough to kill me because I'm not doubled. And so I recoil. And Bob, being auxiliaries, must follow up, must pursue. So he comes.
This is a special feature of auxiliaries that's determined by their types, and they're probably going to regret that, but the rules say I have to follow up. Now we have fighting against his cavalry. So I'm 3, you're 4,
I'm 4,
and you're also a general.
I'm a general, it gives me +1, so I'm 5, but I'm also overlapped, so that puts me down to 4. So it's 3 to 4. And we rolled a 3, and Bob rolled a 1. So Bob goes to 4, 3 + 1 is 4, and I go to 7. 7, 4. So that's not enough to kill Bob, but it's enough to push him back. Not a lot of death that turn. My turn. And we've rolled a 4. So I have some choices. I'm going to. I should actually follow up here. These guys aren't lined up, right? These guys are slightly further forward. So I'm going to, for 1 pip, I'm going to move just the front 2. They count as a group. They can split away from the other 2 for free. There's no extra charge for that. So for 1 pip, I can move those 2 forward into combat. So that leaves me 3. I'll actually move this guy also with them, sorry. So they would move together, 3 of them as a group. So that's still only 1 pip. My Siloi are in a little bit of trouble, so I'm going to try to reorganize my my lines here. So I'm going to move this one element, I'm going to move it directly backwards. Because he is in front of the enemy element, he's limited as to his choices. And
every element has a threat zone, which is the distance up to 1 base width directly in front of it. If you enter an enemy threat zone or are touching the front edge of it, you have three options. You can line up with it, you can fight it, or you can move directly backwards for your whole turn.
I cannot slide across because I'm threatened by the enemy in front. So I'm going to go backwards, but I can go back just half a move. Because I'm regulars, it still only costs me 1 pip. And then the Siloi are also going to go back as well. For 1, they're going to go a little bit further back. They're going to go the whole move back. And then that leaves me 1 more, I believe. Right, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to move 1 blade back, another blade back as well. I have to do separately because they're going backwards. They cannot move backwards as a group. And that's me done. So we have some combats. He's an auxiliary. He's at 3. He's uphill. He gets a +1, so he's at 4. But he's flanked on both sides, so he gets -2. So that puts it at 2, Bob. Okay, I'm a spear. I'm at 4. That's it. 4 to 2. Ooh, now this could be a disaster. I've rolled a 4, so that puts me at 8, and Bob's at 3.
Even with my +1 for being S, I'm still 4.
He's still 4 with your S, and I'm S, so I get a +2 in my turn because I've won the combat. So I actually go to 10. So it's 10-4. I win, and I think we'll follow up. So I have the choice here. I can follow up my base depth, or I can follow up to 40. My base width, basically 40 millimeters. So I think I'm going to go right the way up and join that guy. And I move into combat, it's okay, but we don't fight that combat until next turn. Okay, moving down the line. We have an advantage here maybe, although I think you are uphill, but we do have an advantage on this end. So we're going to go to this end. So I'm at 4, we're both blades. I'm at 4, Bob's at 4, but Bob is overlapped. So he goes down to 3. So 4-3. Oh, 4-3. I rolled a 5, so I go to 9. Bob rolled a 4, so he goes to 7. 9-7.
I'm inferior.
9-6. So it's recoil, but no kill.
Okay, so I go back. So one thing I want to say here, it's important, is that the person whose turn it is determines which order the combats are fought. And that can be quite important when it comes to creating overlaps and using those overlaps to improve your odds in subsequent combats. So it's Nash to choose again which one we fight next.
I think you're uphill here, so it's going to be 4-4 because you get +1 for being uphill, but you're overlapped to get -1, so it evens out. And 4-4 in the middle. So it's, I don't know. Let's try 4-4 in the middle.
Okay.
3-3. Okay, so 7-7 we stand, we draw, and the next one 4-4. Oh, now 6-2. Because he's inferior, this could be exciting. So 4, I go to 6. Sorry, 4 + 6, I go to 10, and you are 4 + 2. You go to 6, but you're inferior. -1.
Take 1 off.
5. So 10-5 doubles him, kills the blade. Right. I have to double him. And double him. So that's why the ordinary versus the inferior troops, they should eventually win. Okay, so that's a good round for the Romans, and it's over to
okay. Let's
the
see
Sun
what we
Knights.
can do in revenge. Oh no, a 1.
That's lucky for me.
That means that I can only move one thing, which. Well, there's one obvious move I should do, which is here, where Nash has failed to protect the flank of his heavy infantry. So if I get a good roll there, maybe we can kill some Romans.
Yes, that's a mistake on my part.
So,
just for the sake of the video.
So 4-3.
4-3 because I'm overlapped. And we rolled a 1, so we are dead because we cannot.
Only good Romans are dead.
We cannot recoil. Far enough. Okay, my turn. Okay, I got 3 pips. 3 pips. So I have to worry about this little hole here, but I've got these Siloi, on my flank that are at the moment a little bit worrying, so I need to deal with those guys. I do also have though some momentum, and the question is, do I continue with the momentum? So I'm going to move forward here. I want to do that. Get my superior troops stuck in. So that's cost me 1. Over here, I'm gonna take my chances. Maybe with his Siloi. I think I can hit you and slide down there, but that would be giving my rear. Let's keep it simple. Okay, I'm gonna hit you. Actually, if I move forward to here, I have to conform with your corner to front corner. So I'm hitting him in the flank. So I cannot just hit like that. I can hit, but I will slide across, and I must conform. So my corner is lined up with his front corner. So we're creating one long edge there. That cost me 1 pip. But actually, if I move forward as a group, I want contacts anyway. It's cost me 1 pip. And I need to protect this guy a little bit. So I'm gonna put this guy here for now. He's gonna come here and create a little bit of protection for the flank of this guy. Okay, and I think my general's feeling very brave and is going to charge your auxiliary as well. Okay, so we don't have any shooting, so this guy now has to turn because he's a single element and he's being contacted in the flank. All right, so I think we can start with this one. So I'm a blade, I'm at 4, you're a Silhouette, you're at 2, 4-2. And I rolled a 4, so I'm at 8, and you rolled a 3, so you're at 5. Silhouette against
so I repulse.
Heavy infantry, you repulse.
So the Silhouette are just light skirmishers. They don't want to get into a fight with the heavy infantry. So when they lose in combat, they're going to move backwards a long way. So they have to go at least 8 centimeters, and if they want to, they can go up to 12 centimeters. But we're just going to go the minimum distance so that we protect the flanks of our friends. So the thing to note here is it's very hard for heavy infantry to kill the skirmishers. They can drive them off, but you can't kill them.
We might as well do this one because it's isolated. So now I'm double overlapped. This is not good. Bob's at 4. I'm at 4, but I have the 2 overlaps, so I go down 2. I'm at 2, 4-2. Oh dear. 7-3. That's a dead. Doubled. That's another dead legion. Over to you.
So I only rolled a 1 last time. Now
So,
if I get some good pips. Yes.
Oh dear.
Now we can put some Romans to the sword. Right, so I'm going to move this one here. Now I would like to move this Silhouette onto the flank of this one, but to move onto someone's flank you have to start outside the imaginary line that extends their flank. Can they see that?
Mm-hmm.
So to move onto his flank I have to start outside of this line, which you can see I'm not, so I'm not allowed to move directly onto his flank, but I can move here and then next turn I can flank him.
So he can move to this position, but not to this position. Okay.
So that's all my pips.
All right. So
combat. Let's start here.
So I'm on 2. You're on 2, but I'm overlapped down to 1. 2-1. Oh dear. That's definitely dead.
6-2.
Oh, it's not going well for the Romans at the moment.
I'm fine where I am. No, I'm going to move forwards. I'm going to follow up. Just 1 base step this time, just to make sure that I'm behind his blades. Now the blades, that's isolated.
So 4 on 4.
4.
Okay, so 8 on 6. Let's go back. All right, that's it.
That's it.
Okay. My turn. Oh, 2 pips. That's probably a lot less than I wanted. 2 pips. Well, I'm going to spend 1 to come backwards to there, so I get a double overlap on that auxilia, and 1. I have to protect this guy. I'm in trouble here because he's going to get round to me, but I have to try to kill this one. So this Roman is going to move into contact this one here, so that's cost me 1 pip as well. And my general, do we have 3 pips in this one? I believe not, maybe. My general will stay there. Okay, so combats very quickly. 4 on 4 or 4. Let's do this one first. Sorry.
Right, still 4 on 4.
4 on 4. So I got a 7, 7 to 6, 7 to 5. So you recoil, and I will follow up.
Okay.
And here it's still 4 on 4. Oh, okay. 4 on 4. You go to 9 6. 9 6. Yes. So we recoil. Do you wish to follow up?
I certainly do.
Okay. Okay, to speed things up, we decided that I'm going to capitulate. I'm going to surrender because I'm in a very bad position. I've lost these elements, so I've lost 1, 2. These count as halves. 3, 3 and a halves elements out of 16 and a half, which means I'm very, very close to being disheartened. When I'm disheartened, everybody will get a -1 on their combat. All my troops will get a -1, which means that I'm going to be dying very, very quickly. Bob here has Siloi coming into my rear. That's going to make a big problem. And so the Romans decided to capitulate to save time. So, good game. Well done, Bob.
So that was a very basic DBMM battle. We didn't use much in the way of manoeuvring or advanced tactics. We wanted to show you how the basic flow of the game goes and the basics of the pip movement and combat systems. In future videos we'll cover advanced manoeuvres, shooting, irregular troops, and show you how to play a full-sized game. In the meantime, please see the helpful diagrams in the back of the rulebook, and if you have any rule questions you can ask them on the Yahoo DBMM list or on the DBMM forums. Also check out our blog for battle reports and check our Facebook page for our latest activities.